appreciate you wearing your mask. I know it's what we're living through is not easy, and I'll put mine back on when we have a chance. But they asked me what I wanted to do, and I did a talk on Merrick's last year that took probably way too long, but I enjoyed it. But
we did.
Thanks. I guess I was begging for that, wasn't I? But what I wanted to do today, and they asked me what I'd like to do when you asked me to do it, I wanted to talk about cones, because that's another big collection, and I have a lot of them, and just talk, you guys probably know a lot about this, but what I'm going to do today is just give you some basic information and then some specific facts, because they're really interesting little mollusks. They're little tough guys, little warriors. But, and then talk about that, and talk about how they use they have venom. All cones have venom, and how they go after the prey. Debbie's going to do a little bit of detail on a chart. Jackie brought some books, but I have books here too that we can talk about. And then just get into some of the medical research that's being done for on cones. It's pretty interesting. I mean, they're actually looking at those to have, they're more powerful than a lot of our drugs. So, I don't know how it's going to work, but I'll talk about that a little bit. And then what I'm going to do then is turn into the collection. I just brought a little tiny bit of my collection because it's just, you'll have to come over to my house if you really want to see it. But after COVID, but
it's really hard to get an invitation.
Yeah, really. But then I'm going to focus on, and I thought I'd start with, you have to pick where you want to go for the cones. And I was going to do the Florida cones and the Gulf of Mexico, just because these are in our backyard, and a lot of people have gotten a lot of these, and just give a little bit of, showcase some of those. And a lot of these are most of these are mine, self-collected, and just talk, well, they're all self-collected except for one or two. Yeah. But, and then I'm going to move into, we had the privilege of Linda Powers and Deb and I had the power, and Homer, you didn't go on that trip. But we had the privilege of going in 2019 March to Fiji and Vanuatu, which was a trip for me, it was a trip of a lifetime. Linda Power goes all the time, but it's, but she's been before, but we went because of that, and just showcase some of and they're known for their cones. The Indo-Pacific is where, the Philippines and the Indian Ocean and things like that, they're known for their cones and the beauty of their cones, okay? But, we have nice ones here. And then I'm going to end it with a few special cones that I think they're rare, and they're, and what they're rare and they're expensive, of course, that doesn't matter, but they're beautiful, and just the idea to get to see them, you probably have seen them before, but I think they're worthy to talk about. So that's what we're going to do, make it really informal. You can come up and look at them later. I'm going to kind of showcase some of them. And then, if you brought some cones, Meredith did, I think both Lindas did, and Jackie brought some books too. So we can talk about that too. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. So let's get started, and like I said, I have some books here too. I'm just going to talk really briefly about that. I just brought a few, but these are Indo-Pacific books that are fantastic, and they're in my collection, but it's probably something we should get for the library if people want to look at them. But this one's a great book, and it really has just on cones, but it's in French, and it's also in English, which helps, doesn't it? But it also shows, this is the chart that Debbie's going to show, but it's also, how you can find them, where you find them, how you collect them, how you store them. It's really pretty interesting to look at if you ever, even for the Floridian cones, it's kind of interesting to do that. This is another one that's from the Getty and Indo-Pacific. It's a fantastic book. And then, I don't know if you can do weights with this, but here's and that one I'm going to talk about. That's my favorite shelf all the time. That's the Glory of the Sea. And we'll talk about that. This is a beautiful book. So much for that. So let's talk about there's they keep identifying more and more cones. So now there's over 800 species of cones. And so, you think about that. I remember the days, not that long ago, it was only 400, but everybody likes to get their name on a cone, don't they, Linda? And why not? And why not? One should be proud of that. But, where they live, is the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Caribbean, the Red Seas, they really have cones. And lucky for us, they live off the coast of Florida and the Gulf of Mexico. So, we're lucky that where we live, if you want to collect cones. They're, just to give a little bit of science, so they're the taxonomy, the phylum is Mollusks, of course. The class is Gastropoda. The family is Conestackas. Can you hear me, or you can't? Really? Am I not clear? Or
I have a sick ear.
You have a sick ear? Well, go sit over there. Okay.
You can get it once you get it.
Well, that ain't gonna happen today. Okay. And then the family, Conestackas, and then the genus is Conus. They're also calling it, starting to call them cones, Conosporella. So that's just, if I go in between those words, but I like to use the Conus. But then, and cones, as you can see, they're just known for their beautiful colors and their patterns. They're so unique. They've got, splotches and bands and dots and, and the Indo-Pacific are the tinted cones too, so they have like tint marks on them too. So, that's why people like to collect them and what they know. But a lot of people don't, are probably aware of it, that they're also dangerous. They're dangerous.
Yes.
Yes. And they're venomous, they make a venom, and they have a harpoon that they can, Debbie's going to go through that in a little bit, but they do tonotoxins, and they go out and they go after their prey and they defend themselves. But, they're tough little warriors, like I said. They're carnivorous, and I'll talk about that in a second. And they've got a radial tooth that has the harpoon and the harpoons in there, and they shoot it out and they can inject poison into you. And they've been known, there's certain kinds, and I'll go through those, that have been known not only to cause great harm to people, but they can have also caused death. Those are mainly the Indo-Pacific. But all cones have the ability to sting. They are just, they're not, our cones on the Florida side aren't really harmful to people. They're not that aggressive, and they don't have the venoms like that. But there's some anecdotal information we get in the alphabets, that alphabets sting like a bee sting or a wasp, okay? So, and then we'll go through that in a few minutes about the venom, because that's pretty interesting. Like I said, they're really beautiful. There's so many different colors. I'm going to get into some of these, but these are the 10 cones, and I'll tell you that's a textile. We'll talk about it in a minute. And you can certainly, look at these, and they're from my collections. Some of them are specimen shells, but some of them are self-collected, and so I try to have a variety of that. Where am I? Okay. What is a cone? In fact, this alphabet was alive, of course, when I took it, and I don't take I try not to take that many live, and I know some people don't like it, but if you're going to collect, you're going to get live cones if you really want to, but they have a periosteum, and you've seen it. And most cones have a very translucent or it's pretty thin covering, skin covering. And so, so they all have an operculum, and you can see the I don't know if you guys can see it, but we'll pass it around. And it's really small compared to the shell, they're really small. The other thing, what's cool, which people think, is a cone is really shaped like an ice cream cone. That's how you can remember it too, because it's got this broad base, body whorl, and then it comes down to a narrowing of the base. So that's why when you think about it, it's like, I think they're like, like ice cream too. They're lovely. They have a very sharp and thin outer lip. And this is very fragile. And this is when you collect cones, and when they're dead and the crabs get them, they break their cones. So when you're looking at it, that's why live cones, you can usually get that, but you need to pay attention to that and make sure that you don't break it, because they're sharp. They can almost cut you too. A lot of times when you buy collections, or it depends on your dealers, they'll file them down. And even if you have your own and you have some break on there, you can take a little file and file it, and it'll make it, you have a nice smooth edge, and people like that. They have a pair of eye stalks, and it's on either side of their mouth, so they also have a siphon siphon that extends and it brings water into their gills. And they have a foot, and that's how they move on the sand. They all live in the sand, and they're buried in the sand and live under coral heads. Okay. I talked about the proboscis and the radial tube, and I'll let Deb talk about that, not yet, but just a couple of minutes, and go. I think I am talking awfully fast. I've had a lot of caffeine, so maybe I'll calm down. But the foot allows them to move across the sand and go after the prey. Sorry, Meredith. Cone size is really variable. You can have some that are just a few millimeters, and then they can get all the way up to 5 inches, and I'll show you a couple that are pretty big. So you've got all the pattern variations, you've got the size differentials, you've got the whole lot of species, and so, and the experts are saying, if a cone could live its lifespan without getting killed, they think they live about 10 to 20 years. That's what they've, it's done some research on that. So, you don't think of that, They have both sexes, and the males fertilize the eggs. They lay egg capsules, and they're long and cylindrical. If you've ever seen them, they usually lay them under a coral head. But they lay around, they lay about 500, 700 eggs each time they lay. And some cones lay up to thousands. But the problem is, all those eggs, most of them don't make it, of course, in the environment, and they're gone. So only very few survive, but they have to have that reproduction to be able to make the species continue. And a lot of them, they're wiping out cones in a lot of different areas. They're carnivorous, as I said, and they choose their venoms, and they have select venoms, and they have a very much of a specificity of what they like to eat, which you wouldn't think of. You think if you're carnivorous, you're going to eat whatever you can find. But, and there's really 3 categories. Most of them eat worms, and they like, worms. There's also cones that like to eat fish. And actually the Geographus, and we'll talk about that in more detail. Here's a Geographus. This is the most deadly cone there is, but it's Indo-Pacific. But it actually eats fish, and it has a harpoon, of course, and it can swallow. They can extend their, so they can even swallow a fish that's bigger than themselves. It's amazing how they can do that. And then there's cones that, and this is one of them, this is a marble cone, but this is cones that actually eat other cones. They eat other mollusks, and they actually will eat other cones. So those guys are not very nice at all. But it's really interesting to think that they have that specificity. I was reading a study on this, and I'll just tell you briefly about it. And they took a bunch of live cones, and they put them in, they were the Indo-Pacific, and they're all the really poisonous ones, but they put them in an aquarium, and they caught other mollusks, and these were ones that fish, and they put different types in there to see what they would eat. And they would put something in there, and the Geographus, they were like, no, I'm not eating that. And then, they would put calories in there, and they would eat those calories like they were popcorn. And that made sense, because when we went over to, Vanuatu and Fiji, all the tiger calories are all over there too, so it's a very good source. So they've probably, it's their preferred choice, and they have abundance of it. So I just think it's interesting the way they do that. So I'm going to let Debbi, if you want to talk a few minutes on how they do the venom and how they use the radial harpoon, and show them the chart, please.
Okay. Well, I'll walk this around first, so you can look at it.
Or we can pass it around if you want.
Well, yeah, I could.
You
Anyway, so now this is a really small diagram, about 3 inches by 3 inches. Unfortunately, the print shop that I took it to, this is as much as they could enlarge it. Okay? If I could have started with this, then I could have had something really big, like a poster size.
That's something, Lisa, you could put in your newspaper. Right? Maybe people would like to see that.
I think I would take pictures, yeah.
Anyway,
I'll send it to you too if you want.
I would love that.
shortly before we left on our trip, Palmer gives me a clue, and he says, look, you've got to go out at night. It's magical. The specimens come out.
They are nocturnal.
Yeah, nocturnal. And well, now occasionally we did see some during the day.
Yeah, good
But
day for me.
anyway, So as I left, I was thinking about what he said, and I'm like, who in the hell would go out there into the water? You know, you got deadly cones, you got deadly sea snakes that we saw all the time. You got everything in there that'll kill you in a minute. And so in Vanuatu, I didn't take dive light with me, but when I got to Vanuatu, I started seeing what they were bringing in at night, and I'm thinking, maybe I should rethink my position on this. So when we got to Fiji, Candy and then Tammy loaned me their extra dive lights. And so I went out there, and it was, Homer was right on the money. They all come out to feed. This is when you're going to get your best shells at night, and it was absolutely magical. It's the most fantastic part of the whole vacation. I absolutely loved it. Yeah, and so anyway, I've done this little diagram here. Let me show it to you here. You've got what's called the sac here, and this is where the venom is stored, okay, with these cones. And actually, there's enough venom in here in the sac to kill about 700 people. That's how potent this stuff is. So if you can drop an elephant in the mud, you can definitely drop me in the mud. So anyway, on the first night, believe it or not, underneath the rocky ledge, I did spot a small one, a textile cone. And of course, you start to have a heart attack. You know, oh my God, is this one of them? Is this one of them? And so you want to approach it on the large end of the shell and pick it up like this. Now, fortunately for me, the shell was either just coming out from a slumber and was very passive, and so I let down, of course, picked it up and threw it right in the bag. Okay, so I didn't have any problems with that. However, Tammy told me about an incident on Vanuatu that she had during the night that was really kind of scary. The shell was very aggressive, very active, and I don't know if he was sticking the harpoon out trying to get her off. She had to wait a number of minutes before the shell would calm down before she was surprised. Because it was really, shocking, I thought. So anyway, let's go back to this poisonous stuff.
Okay, Debbie,
Yeah.
tell them a little bit about the bag, what you should use to collect them.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, yeah, we all had a mesh bag for collecting our regular shells, that's correct. But Candy had come up with this idea, and I thought it sounded brilliant at the time, and so we followed suit, but it didn't work out so good. She took a plastic coffee can that you use your coffee, and cut an X on top of the plastic lid. And then I attached a little rope on it so I could keep that. But when I would be swimming, the coffee can would actually float around to the middle of my back. So
Well, you do need a hard cover.
that really didn't work.
That one didn't work, but.
So then I thought, when I got home, I revised it a little bit, and I thought, well, what about a mayonnaise jar? It's plastic, it has a lid on it. I can fill it with water, shove the cones in there, and then throw that in my collecting bag, because Everett got really upset about it. I said, is this a textile? And he said, yes, it should be in that mesh bag.
Right.
It should be in a separate hard container so that you don't get, you forget you carry your bag along your leg and you get barbed in your leg. Yeah. So anyway, the venom, of course, is stored here in the little bag, comes down here through the duct, and your little radula are almost like a quiver of bows if you were hunting with your arrow.
Yes, there too.
So if he sticks it out to get a fish and it breaks off, well, he's got a little supply right here in the channel here where he can go ahead and get some more of them. This is the little sack where the little radula are stored, the harpoon. And so he can, as you were mentioning the siphon, it's kind of like a snorkel tube. He crawls under the sand, sticks up this little tube to breathe or whatever physical vibration. Here's the little eyes on the stalk that Karen was talking about. He checks out the fish, moves in slowly, and it's over in seconds. It's just like that.
And
We
it's
watched
long.
the
It's
YouTube
long.
of it, and the fish starts to quiver, and in seconds it's gone. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So you can get a closer look at this if you like, but that was just I thought this was a nice little diagram of what's going on there. And so, like I said, I got a number of specimens that,
Can you see the little harpoon? I mean, is it like?
The harpoon, yeah.
Now
other people-
somebody in our group, who was it? Was it Bill Benoni or somebody? He actually
Yeah.
takes that out of there and has a collection of the radulas.
One
You
of the
can actually
guys
see
in
one
North
here.
Carolina.
Was it Bill?
It was
Somebody in our
Bill
group
did
did.
it.
And I thought that was really unusual and very fascinating.
Well, and the harpoons like on a geographic cone, they're large, and so they can get them. I don't know how Bill got them out there. I kept looking to see where they were, and I was like, where is it?
Now, see, and the other thing, on these venomous cones, the aperture flares outward more than our regular alphabet cones, and that's so it can get the get the little Radial under the harpoon out, just stick their foot, see how it flares out more, and it also makes them easier to clean in the cleaning process.
Yeah, they're designed to
Yeah,
kill.
yeah.
I mean, they're carnivorous snouts, and
So do they have brains or they just run?
yeah.
So is that where all the information is? My dog, right? Everything he's born to bring.
Well, I mean, you know, it's a very simplistic, animal, but they have to hunt, so they're selected. I was going to talk about that in a second, but the conotoxins that they use, it's in their venomous, the duck, they actually select what they want, and they can blend, and then
And they
shoot.
just know intuitively.
There has to be some intelligence. I don't know how much of a brain they have, but you think about it. And like I said, they've done this. This is evolution. You know, they've figured out how to survive, but they're using their venom. And are you finished or?
Yeah.
Okay. They're using their venom. They'll use it to do prey. That's the most thing they're hunting. But like I said, other things attack them, and even cones attack them. So they can use other venoms to defend themselves too. So it's almost like, we think these things aren't very smart, but I would think it's pretty well designed, and it's pretty much that nature knows how to do it. It's fascinating.
It is.
And that's what cones are. Most people collect them for their colors and the way they look. Understanding the science and understanding the way they are being able to evolve is fascinating, and so that's what we kind of want to share with you guys before we just get into how pretty these are. So, but medical research, they've been doing a lot of medical research. When we were down in Santa Barbara for COA, we were down in Santa Barbara for COA, there was a guy that talked on it down there. It was a very interesting talk on what they're doing for cone venom and what they've been looking at, the use of the conotoxins. They're looking at it too. Oh, and I was going to tell you, I forgot to tell you this. The Geographus, I was saying that's the most dangerous cone. They think that venom is more lethal, 100 times more lethal than being bit by a rattlesnake. Perspective. Something as small as that lethal. So they're taking these conotoxins and medical researchers looking at it, and it's because, and they've been using it for acute pain. And the people that have cancer or HIV or, MS or even Alzheimer's are starting to look at it for dealing with pain on that. And Parkinson's, this is a big Parkinson research too that's going on, but they think that like a conus magnus, which is one of the poisonous ones I just told you about, they think that particular conotoxin, they've analyzed it, it's actually 1,000 times more powerful than morphine. Mm-hmm. So you think about that and being able to use it for people that are in really bad shape and need some help. The problem is they have to do a lot more research on it, and the problem is you got to get it out of the cones, so how do you farm them and do things like that? But medical researchers are really, they're combining with the environmentalists, and they're talking about, they're certainly in the Indo-Pacific cones, which are the ones they want to use to protect the reefs. I don't think it's going to be too long we're ever going to be able to go over there and collect things. But it's a good thing too if you can figure out how to use it, because it's a natural substance. But it can cause so much harm. But here's a promise of really help for people too. So I don't know if you have any other questions on that. But then again, it's just a little bit of basics and just the uniqueness of cones, and no other mollusk really has this ability. I mean, there's different things that they're really good at too, but this is how they're specialized and things like that. So, any questions on that? Because then I'm going to move into talking about some of my collection. Is that okay? And talking about.
That's amazing.
Do the Florida cones primarily feed on worms then?
Yes, they do. That's the majority of cones do that. There's some that'll attack others, but no, Florida cones, but they're all carnivorous. I think like a falcon conch, that you think that's a vegetarian, I think, isn't it? That's what I always remembered. But you think that's a very aggressive cone, because you've had them come out and strike you, with their foot. But no, these boys are the tough ones, you know, these little girls, whatever they are. But any other questions on that? And then I'm going to move into mine. And like I said, we've got books here if people want to look at that too. But just wanted to give you an idea of their significance. I guess I'll say it that way. Okay. So I'm going to turn and go into my collection, if that's okay. And let me see right. Okay. In this tray here, I put all the Florida cones and Gulf of Mexico cones. Some of them are, and actually there's a couple here from the Dominican too, but Republic. But these are stuff that are in our backyard. So you know, most of you have probably been out and got these, but you know, I want to talk about them in a little bit of detail. I'm going to start with you just mentioned the Florida cone, and I always called it Conus floridanus, but it's now it's called in a bathroom, for the scientific name. But this is these. And guys, I'm sorry, but I'm going to try to. We can take these around, and maybe Deb or somebody can help me do this. But I put a whole bunch of varieties here just so you can see them. I mean, how many people have gotten Florida cones? About everybody. Okay, so I'm not going to show you too much. But look at the variety. I mean, they certainly have the banding, they have the dots, they have the splotches, they have the orange. There's a whole bunch of subspecies and size. It's a cone that will grow about. That's a big one, and you don't normally find a beautiful spire. It's elongated. You don't normally find them that big, but there's a whole bunch here that you can see the various patterns. They're shallow watered cones, and they really pop out at low tide. Right after low tide, if you go, and I found them really south of Sarasota. They've lost everything up there, but I think they're really more southern. Kais is where I go to get them now. We used to get them in Boca all the time, Boca Grande, but they've covered up the shell bed, so you're not going to get them anymore, But if you want to go to Kais and go down there, there's still a lot of cones. What you'll see them, I mean, this is about as big as they get. It's a half inch or that's about as big. That's an inch, isn't it? But that's a giant as far as that cone. But they're beautiful colors. But you'll see them. This is what I was always when I went out to Kais, which is low tide. You'll get on the sand flats out there, and you'll see them stick their base up in the air. And you'll know that they're looking and stuff. They're looking to feed. But you can go by and it's just like. And I always think they look like a little bit of candy. It's almost like M&Ms or stuff like that.
Debbi described it as picking strawberries.
They look like candy corn.
They look like candy corn. They do, and when they're always they're in their population there. You can find them when they come up like that. But it's pretty interesting to watch their behaviors. So that's one, and then one I'm going to move to is a little bit more rare than Florida cones. Although these are I love to get these still. I mean they're not that common, but this is one of my prized possessions. But I got this in the Keys when I was down there. I was down there at COA, and this is when we went out on a trip. And this is the Conus Regis, or the crown cone. And isn't that a beautiful thing? You look at that. I mean, I'm going to show it, and I have a baby I got too, a little tiny one that it was dead, but I found this. But this one's got its operculum in it. I mean, it's a operculum in it, and you can see it right there how small it is to the shell. It's a tough, hardy little shell. It's got this nice white apex, and it's really a white shell with the brown bandings on it. But what's cool about it is the knobs. And this is why they call it a royal cone or a crown cone. It's in the shape of a crown. If I'm just going to take 2 seconds, but just to show it to you. But if you don't mind, but see the crown and all that, and see that's the operculum and things like that. Just give you a quickie, but for threatened species, and the reason is fishermen actually get them mad because they're nocturnal, and they go out and get them in the nets and they pull them off the bottom, and they get caught in it, and they use them not only go to the retail shell market to sell them, but they eat them, which I don't know how. but after I cleaned that thing, I don't know how they did that, but they are threatened, and so if you get a chance to, you should get one if you can. I mean, certainly if you go to the Keys and in the East Coast, but has anybody else found any of those? Yeah, of course.
Not right,
But you have. Where'd you find yours?
over on the.
Yeah, it's all that's
Red
that.
and,
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I found them in the Dominican Republic too. We were down there, we saw them down there too. But it's one of my favorites. Okay, so okay. Now I'm going to move on. What was I going to move on to? Oh yeah, here we go. The Jasper come. This little ones. You can't even see them, but these are little guys. I love these. There's the Conestackas, the Jaspideus, or the Jasper cones, or the Sternsii. And here's the controversy about these. Now, there's a lot of names, a lot of species. Dick Sargent and Ed named things from the Florida, and Linda's going to talk about the Periosteum. But these are all, I think, related, because they're all, but they're beautiful. This is a big one, but I'll show it to you, I'll pass it around, but they only get up to about, a half inch at the most. But, I have a sampling here. But I find these in Kais too. They're shallow water. I used to find a lot of sound about them. But, what's cool about them, they're in shallow water, but if you see a low tide and it's about 30 minutes after a low tide hits and the tide's going out and it's not coming back in yet. They'll pop up on the sand and they'll sit on a little mound of sand. You can see them sitting out there too. So they're really lovely little shells. You want to show this to people? Or they're saying that they're found on both coasts, and like I said, it's either a Jasper cone or a Stearns cone, and they're down in Bay Matthews. They're talking about it. They think our coast, the southwest coast, is now they think they're all Stearns cones. But, and the Jasper cones are on the East Coast. But I don't know, I don't think that's definite now. I don't know, and I think, I've always called them Jasper cones, or, even dusky cones and stuff like that.
Is that the same as dusky?
Yeah, they're all, there's a whole lot of differences. If you look at the Sargent's book, and, there's so many things, but, I call them Jasper, you can call them what you want, but they think they're so similar, and they're hard to tell apart. But they do DNA on this, we would know. That's the way I feel about it as a microbiologist. But they're cute, and I love them. And so Linda's got a really nice one. Of course, everybody knows that she has it named after her, but it's a gorgeous little shell. You want to talk about?
Well, I'm not going to talk a lot about it because it's all in the newsletter.
Yeah, he's new. So.
Well, yeah, and Lisa had approached me and asked me to, she had found the picture of the Linda Powers eye and asked me to do an article about it, so I'm not going to repeat the whole story. What was really interesting when I was doing my research for the article, and it was basically just to get, dates and what year it was. Most of you that have been to my place know that my displays are in shelves according to the trip that I was on, and so I'm looking for a date, and I think this was the first trip to the DR, and started looking, to see if I had collected any, because the first trip they were not named, and lo and behold, I'll pass this around. I found a carrier shell which had a Linda Powers eye attached to it, which I never knew until I did this article. So that was pretty cool. But you'll see when you read the article, it was a very unscientific way that it was named after me, and what that really means is that
They're all like that.
yeah, you don't have to be a scientist, you don't have to be, really smart. It's almost like you have to know the connections, and that's one reason I encourage everybody to get involved in Conchologists of America and get to know the people, because it is the most wonderful group of people you've ever met in your life, most generous, who love shells. So, yeah.
And you may get to have a shell named after you, you know, because Homer's got some, and
Homer has
it's a nice thing, you know, that we have people that have you know, I've done that. And I'll show you a couple, when it's finished, I'll show you one I have in my collection of somebody that collected it. I just love it.
Yes.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
the,
really cool.
the carrier shells in this area of the Dominican Republic are unique in and of themselves too, because they collect those little round rocks. So those are very distinctive
It's hard
too.
to tell, it's hard to even find them, because
Yeah.
I mean, carriers are so, that's another study that we ought to do sometime, you know. Yeah, not necessarily me, but somebody. Although that would be fun to do. Okay, and then is that, is there
That's it,
anything
I'm
else?
done,
So,
yeah.
you know, and like I said, they're very closely related to the jasper cones, that's why I wanted to show that. These cones are, they're similar looking and things like that. But you never know.
You guys can take them out of that bag if you want, I just.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to move on just to talk about. This is one of my favorite cones. I wanted to show you. These are actually out of the Dominican Republic. You can get them down in the Keys too, but this is called the Conestackas, and it's the carrot cone, and you'll see why. You may look at it. You can tell why. I mean, it's orange, black. It does look like a little carrot, you know. And these are big. I mean, this is about as big as they get. And they're beautiful. I just love it. But they're a little flat. And they're gorgeous. They have this little white band again, you know, that you can see. It's very faint. But there's also you know, they're found in moderately deeper water. We found them snorkeling on sea fans and things like that. But what's interesting is when we go down to Kais a lot, and I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, there would be down by Cape Romano in that area, I would get old Sozone cones there. And I don't know where, there must have been a bed out there, or maybe it's currents again, but they were there, and I have them in my collection too. So, okay, so I've gone through all that. Now we're going to go into the one that's my favorite, Florida cone. And these are everybody's got the Conus spurious atlanticus, you know, the alphabet cone, you know, we all try to collect these. This is I brought, these are out of my collection. These are all I collected. I mean, you've got everything. Look at this. Maybe I shouldn't do that. But look at the size differences you could get. You know, there's the babies, and this is that a magnificent cone. I mean, it's got a growth line, and so it's, you know, it's got some, but it's, you know, they're flat on the top. You know, they're big, sturdy cones. They're found shallow water, so we can find these all over the place. They're actually it's a white shell, but it's got, you know, dashes and dots and splotches and brown, chestnut, and chocolate. And I love the chocolate alphabets because they're dark and they're really gorgeous. I love them all. I don't know. It's not a shell I don't love. But you know, look at the size. That you don't get them this big really. And this is more representative of what you get on the East Coast than what we get around here. They're a little bit more delicate. That is not a delicate cone, but these are I found on Kais. And look at the spires. When you see this, they have a really wonderful spire up there. Again, the operculum is small compared to the shell. The Periosteum is really translucent. It's, you know, it's very thin, and when you get them live and like that, so they're very beautiful. And a whole bunch of different, and the reason they're called alphabets, of course, people collect them for this reason. And I brought one to show you, if I can remember. There it is. This one I collected, and I've got some. I've spelled out my name, and everybody looks at it. You get the letters on it. You figure out what to do. You know, Harlan's got the book on alphabet cones if you want to know everything about alphabets. But you know, like this one has an E, which, you know, I'll show it to you. Just, you know, you can see it right there. I think it's an E, but you know, you can show people. But you know, like I said, I'll spell it out. And so hence that's the name. And then. What was I going to say? Here we go. And then I also brought a couple. Now, these I purchased, but these are gorgeous. But these are alphabets, but they're out of Mexico. And you can see the difference, and this is more of a chocolate color. But you can see the difference. These are big old cones, but you know, they're slightly different than ours. They're wider and things like that. So why don't you go show people that? And now I'm going to end with this, and this is Devin and Linda Powers and I were out with, had the privilege of going out with Amy Tripp, who is a master down in Marco Island. And she takes us out to Kais Island, and we were on Dinkins Point. We've been out looking, Devin and I were walking with each other. We've been out looking for alphabets. We've been picking them up on the sand flats. That, you know, you'll find them on the sand flats on a low tide. So you know that's if you want to go hunt them. And well, I'm going to stop for this because I want people to see this. But and so, you know, Deb and I were walking and talking to each other. We were walking we were walking down to the end of the island on Dinkins Point, which is, you know, it really used to be North Kais, but it's cut through the island. But we were talking, and on my side, and I'll say it that way, Deb goes, "What's that?" And I go, "I don't know, but I'm picking it up." And so, and she didn't fight me for it, so I picked it up, and well, she should have. So it's a long story, so let me get to it. But so I bent down, I picked it up, and I said, "I don't know what this is." I said, "It looks like an alphabet," and it certainly had the shape of this. It was covered in a Periosteum, but it was not like anything I'd ever seen. It was really thick and brown all over the shell. And I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at it, and I go, "Well, I don't know what it is." And so, and the shell was white, and I thought, "Oh, is this some strange albino?" And I'm like, "I don't know." So I go, "Well, I'm just going to put it in my bucket," and we had a lot of shelling to do, and I'll look at it later. So I put it in there, and I went on down, and went on down to Kais, and so, you know, if everybody's been with me and has never shelled with me, I usually quantity is my name. So I, filled up the bucket, and it was all on top of this particular shell. And it was live, okay? And so I got home, we came home, and was exhausted, and it was a great day. We had a really fun day. And so I just put my shells in some water and just went, and did my thing and didn't pay attention to it. And then a couple days later, I put it in some bleach and just didn't pay a whole lot more attention to it. And I thought, well, I've got to clean up these shells on the porch, and like you do. And I started unfortunately, the Periosteum, I should have taken pictures of it, had come out and off of it. And so I'm looking at it, and it's shaped just like and it's this shell, but it's shaped just like an alphabet. And I'm looking at it going, and I still have the purple. So I'm looking at it going, well, what is it? And because it doesn't look like any alphabet I've ever seen. And then my memory bank kind of kicked in, and I'm going, is that a gold-banded cone? And I'm sat there, and I'm like, and my heart just like pounded. And because this is the rarest, it's a freak aberration of an alphabet is really what it is. But and they're only found in this really in this area. They're found. You can get them down in the Keys too. Very few. But so I remember this, and I was like, so we have our friend Scott, from Boston, who's a cone expert, a shell expert. So I took a picture, and I said, Scott, I said, is this what I think it is? Is this the gold-banded cone? And I sent him, and I thought, well, he's working, he's not going to say anything. And he writes back immediately, he goes, OMG, Karen, do you realize what you got? And it was like, and then I was really excited, I was jumping up and down on the porch, and he goes, that is the coolest. He said, do you realize how rare that is? And this cone is named by Tucker Abbott. He named this in the 50s, but they had only found, he said, Peter Nance, and then Tucker said, this is the rarest, he thought they were rarer than a left-handed genomia, which tells you what it is. And he said there's only it's not a very show shell, and you can tell the difference. Beautiful spire, has bands. And that's the difference. And if you want to, if you ever, this is a, you know, find of a lifetime for me, and barely, but but you know, and what he said is, oh, Karen. And then we got our other friends involved. Mark Johnson started coming in, and everybody else started coming in and talking about what it was. And Claire Bateman, a lot of people know her from Sanibel. She had found one. It was in the Sanibel show, and it got show the show. And Amy was like, "Karen, you need to enter that." And I probably do need to enter it, but you know, it's just another thing to do. But just to find it, it's not that it's just there's only been a handful found, and I know Treasure Seeker they just found one too. I'm not sure those are always true, but hopefully. But there's but it's a freak. No one knows how this happened, and it's it's an alphabet, but it's a freak from it, and it's just to me it's gorgeous, and so you know that's something.
And then the offers started coming for it.
Yeah.
Karen got offered a lot of money for that show.
I did, but that's not because of rare. And if you read Harlan's book, he's got Tucker's all the notes on it, and he talks about it too. So it got up to $5,000.